We've learned about several different types of values and units in CSS, but we haven't really discussed color yet. So far, we've just used color keywords like red or blue. But I have a feeling you're more creative than that, and you want to live in a world of digital color. There are a few different ways we can define colors using CSS, but we're going to learn about hexadecimal colors in this project. That looks and sounds complicated at first, so let's walk through it slowly. Hexadecimal is a base 16 numbering system rather than the base 10 number system that you're used to. After we count from 0 to 9, we run out of our traditional numeric values and move on to the letters A, B, C, D, E, and F, which represent the numbers 10 through 15 as a single digit or character. So if we start counting at 0, that's 16 possibilities for each place. Now, in our normal base 10 numbering system, we can combine two of the numerals 0 through 9 for a total of 10 possible values in each place. If we multiply the number of possible values in each place together, we get a total of 100 possible numbers, which represents 0 through 99. Now, if we combine the two hexadecimal values together in the same way we're used to combining the numerals 0 through 9, we can create 256 values instead of 100. That's because each number is 16 digits, and 16 multiplied by 16 is 256. When we write hexadecimal colors, there's a place for red, green, and blue, which are the three colors we can combine to make any color on a digital screen. Each of these three colors consists of two hexadecimal numbers for a total of 6 places. The first two numbers are for red, the second two are for green, and the last two are for blue. The higher each of these values are, the more of that color will be mixed in. So for example, a hex value of all zeros would be pure black, and a hex value of all Fs would be pure white. A number in the middle, like all 8s, would represent a middle gray. These values start with a hash or a pound sign to denote that they're hexadecimal values. We're going to create a green color using the value 6AB47B. If we break this down, the first pair of values is a medium amount of red, the second two values are a high amount of green, and the last two values are a medium amount of blue. So with our knowledge of hexadecimal colors, let's try one out. I'm going to create some space to work here and just skip down our CSS file a little bit. And right here, I'm going to select an anchor element. Actually, this is going to be all the anchor elements on our page. And I'm going to use the color property, and I'm going to apply a hexadecimal value of 6AB47B. And if we hover over that hexadecimal value, you can see that workspaces will automatically show us what that color looks like. Now, I want all of the links on my site to be green, but throughout this project, you should pick the colors that you like. In fact, you'll see me type hexadecimal colors like this pretty quickly. It's not because I'm magically able to type out these colors from memory. It's because I've already picked them out. When picking colors, you'll need to take some time experimenting, possibly in an image editing tool like Photoshop. I'm going to select our header and add 2 new declarations. Let's go ahead and select our header. And we'll use the background property. And I'm going to type in the same color that we used here. Actually, I can just copy and paste it, just like that. And then I'm going to add a border color, which is a property we haven't seen before. And I'm going to add a new color here, which is 599A68, and that should do it. Now I'm going to go ahead and save the page and refresh over here. And as you can see, our header is now green. However, it has the same color as our links, so they're disappearing. And we'll go ahead and fix that in just a moment. I'd also like you to notice that there isn't a border really appearing just yet, but we'll use that border color later on. Now, let's go ahead and fix the color of those headlines. To do that, I'm going to use a new selector here, and I'll explain this in just a minute. So an H1 with a comma, followed by an H2. And I'm going to set the color to white. Now, let's take a look at this syntax because I've done two new things here. First, I've styled both our H1 and our H2 elements in the same style rule. The comma between two elements will break them into two separate selectors here. So this is actually separating selectors, and I could have, say, a descendant selector here, so I could just select an anchor element if it appeared inside of the H1, just like that, and it would separate it from my second selector here. So we're selecting the H1, and separately we're selecting the H2, but we're applying the same set of style rules to them. Second, I've used some hexadecimal shorthand here, and I've only used 3 digits instead of the normal 6. In this case, each digit will be used as both digits for each color. In other words, this is equivalent to filling out all 6 numbers with these values. Of course, these are the highest values possible, and I've applied it to all colors, so that will give us a white color. Using shorthand for the hexadecimal and for the selectors here is just a way to save a little bit of time and increase the clarity of your code. Just to make sure you understand, the code you see here would be equivalent to the following. If I were to type out an H1 and set it to the color white, just like that, with our normal 6 hexadecimal digits, and then if I copied that and pasted it and set that to an H2, all of this code here is exactly equivalent to this code right here. It's doing the exact same thing. So this is much shorter than typing out everything in longhand. Now, let's go ahead and save this out, switch over to the browser, and refresh here. And as you can see, we now have our headlines visible. However, our navigation is still here, and it's not visible. So if I highlight the page here, you can just barely make out these navigation links, which you can't see. So I want our navigation to have a slightly darker green background on mobile devices, similar to the border color that we'll use later on. So let's go ahead and grab that border color, just like that. And then we need to select our navigation, which we haven't done yet. So let's make a new selector. And we'll say background, and then paste in that color we just copied, and end it with a semicolon. So let's go ahead and save that, switch back to our preview and refresh. And as you can see, we have a slightly darker background applied, but our navigation links still aren't very visible. There's not very much contrast there. So we want to change those to white as well so that they're extra visible. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and create another selector here that will select the anchor elements inside of our nav. And we're going to set the color, once again, to white, just like that. So far, so good. However, we want these colors to stay white no matter what, even if the site visitor has already visited them. To do that, we're going to create another selector in this same rule using a comma, and we're going to select the anchor elements again. Now, what we want to do here is add what's called a pseudo-class to our second anchor element, or our second selector here. It's not a real class in our HTML, but it's basically a state that the element can be put into under the right conditions. So let's go ahead and add a pseudo-class. I'm going to type a colon here, and then I'm going to type the word visited. So this is the visited pseudo-class. I'm going to save that out, and if we go to our preview and refresh the page, you can see that all of these links are white, and even if I click here and go back, they still remain white, even if they've been visited.